Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this week we have a lot to talk about with the iPhone 17. Also, we could see a new HomePad, as some are calling it. iPhone could go bezel free, and there's more to talk about with iOS 19. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of December 30th, 2024. Apple is close to becoming the first $4 trillion company, according to Fortune. If we go to the Stocks app, you can see that it's increasing over time, and once they hit $4 trillion, they'll be the first to do it. Apple has long supported the RED Foundation, or RED's global fund, with special RED iPhones, RED cases, and more, but lately we've seen less and less of this. It's something I've been looking forward to for a long time. However, for World AIDS Day, Apple Pay donated $5 for every purchase using Apple Pay on Apple.com, the Apple Store, and Apple Store app. This ran from November 29th to December 8th, and Apple was able to donate $3 million total. However, I do wish we saw a RED iPhone 16 Pro model like we used to, sort of as a mid-year refresh, something along those lines. I would love to see that return, but maybe we'll see that in the future. Apple announced today that you'll be able to stream TV Plus this weekend for free on the 4th and the 5th. It looks like that's what their announcement was, stream for free January 4th through the 5th, so you can watch all of the latest updated TV shows. Now, Apple has been working on a new iPhone SE we'll talk about later on. However, the iPhone SE 3rd generation and iPhone 14 and 14 Plus are no longer for sale in most of the European Union countries. This is due to USB-C rules being in full effect starting in January, and Lightning is still available on the iPhone 14, 14 Plus, and iPhone SE. So it makes sense they're sort of discontinuing this around the world, and hopefully we'll see more of this, as I like that they've actually cut back the actual offerings on Apple.com, and we have less to pick from and makes it sort of simpler as far as what you're going to choose. But we could see a new iPhone SE 3 very soon. Apple was once said to be working on its very own search engine. Recently, Eddie Q was mentioned in a U.S. federal court filing stating that Apple does not plan to make or create its own search engine due to a few different reasons. One of them would be cost overall. It would cost billions. Apple would also be required to sell targeted advertising, which Apple doesn't want to do apparently. However, I think we see some of that in iPhone. And Apple would need to be more specialized as far as employees to pull off such a feat. AI is also rapidly changing the search environment. So due to those reasons, although it looks like they probably investigated looking into maybe making their own search engine, it seems like they've abandoned that. There's weekly deals this week that are actually quite good for the new year. Apple Watch Series 10 is down to $329 for a New Year's Eve sale. Of course, there's perpetual discounts on things such as AirPods 4, as well as AirPods Pro, iPads, and more. I'll link all of those deals in the description as they change every week. Now, as far as releases this week, we're looking forward to upcoming updates such as iOS 18.2.1, which we know is confirmed to be in the works. I've talked about this before, and many people have been asking, when will we see that? Well, Apple's currently on their holiday break, and based on what we know, they'll be back on the 2nd. So based on that, we could see that release on the 2nd or 3rd, or probably the following week as well, sometime around those time frames. If we go to Apple's Feedback app, if you're running one of the betas, or if you're not, we'll go into that. You'll see here it says winter break. They'll be on winter break from December 24th through January 1st, and they'll be back in the office on January 2nd. So based on that, I would expect if we're going to get an iOS 18.2.1 update very soon, we could see it as soon as the 2nd, hopefully sometime this week. If not, I think they'll push it out to the following week. Also, I expect iOS 18.3 Beta 2 soon as well. Again, I expect that probably next week, although they could push it another week. It just depends on what they decide to do. But we could see that early next week. Also, we have CES next week as well. iOS 18.3's public release will probably be at the end of January or early February. That's what we've seen in the past, so that's what I would expect this time around. But we don't have any firm dates from Apple just yet. We're also expecting some other updates, probably with Beta 2, maybe some Apple Intelligence improvements with priority notifications. Hopefully we'll see Siri 2.0, at least in some form, and Siri with context in the coming future. So by iOS 18.4, we should have most of the first promised Apple Intelligence features, and those will be rolling out. And with Apple Intelligence, we may have to wait until maybe iOS 19 to see many more features that were already promised. So far, we've heard that it looks like iOS 19 will support all the same devices as iOS 18. We talked about this last week, and this time last year, we actually had some idea of how big iOS 18 could be and what some of the features could be. However, this year we're not hearing much at all, and it has me hoping that Apple's going to be more heavily focused on stability and reliability this year. Some of the features, of course, could be expected, such as an updated Siri chatbot, additional Apple Intelligence features, but so far not much has leaked. This is different than what we've had in previous years, where we knew a lot more at this time, whether it would be a big update or maybe have a few small features, multitasking, and more. So maybe we'll get a year like Apple did with macOS Snow Leopard and get stability. We've talked about this for about 4 years at this point, so hopefully that's what we see. And I actually did a poll on X or Twitter to see what you thought about this as well. And you'll see I said this year, would you rather have new iOS features or stability with iPhone? 63% would rather have stability and reliability. This is out of 3,473 votes. So it's not everyone's opinion. And of course, I would like a few new features here and there, but I would love to see them focus on stability. Now, when it comes to the next iPhone 17 Air and iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Air is said to have a display that's 6.5 to 6.6 inches, while the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro will likely keep similar display sizes as to what we have now with 6.3 and 6.9 inches on the Pro Max models. The displays are said to be more power efficient this time around, which would help with battery life overall, maybe just add to overall brightness. We could see better improvements there. But all iPhone 17 models this year are said to be gaining 120 Hz ProMotion finally. This is according to a leak by Digital Chat Station on Weibo. So we've been wanting this for years. Apple has long said this is a Pro feature and hasn't included it in the base model iPhones. It doesn't make a lot of sense at the price point this time around, so just to have the option there would be great. I know some people even turn off ProMotion on the Pro and Pro Max phones to save battery life. So maybe giving an option to say what you would rather have. Would you rather have battery life or ProMotion? And then give the user the option to turn that off if they want to. Also, we're expecting a smaller dynamic island and a less reflective screen, hopefully, with a coating similar to what Samsung uses on the S24 Ultra. You can see that here side by side, the reflectivity. It's definitely greater on the 16 Pro Max. Not as big as you would think, but it's really nice to have a less reflective display. So hopefully we'll see that in the near future. Apple is also said to be working on a completely bezel-free iPhone, according to the elec, but Apple's apparently facing some difficulty making this happen. Originally, it was thought that Apple could have a bezel-free iPhone ready by 2026, but due to the obvious difficulty of durability and hiding cables, this could be some ways off. I would love to see that, where it would sort of wrap around the edges, be all glass, but again, that is a concern with durability. We know folding phones seem to have issues where they can crack over time, and in general, durability will be a concern if the whole thing is made of glass. You'll have no impact options. If it hits the side, you're going to go directly to the glass with a bezel-free iPhone. So you would need to find some way to protect that a little bit better. So it looks like Apple's working on it, but again, it could be a ways off. And speaking of an iPhone Fold, some clarifications on that. It seems Apple's been working on multiple devices. One would be a folding iPhone similar to this, but maybe it would fold in half like the Z Flip. Also, one would be a folding Mac up to 19 inches or maybe 21 inches. There seems to be some conflicting reports, whether it's an iPad or whether it's a Mac, but either way, Apple's definitely working on something like that. Now that the iPhone SE 3rd generation is no longer available in the EU, it makes sense that we'll soon see an upgraded version with USB-C. Apple's been working on that for some time, and many have said it will look similar to what we have with the iPhone 14. However, it will have a few differences. For one, it will have USB-C, of course, to meet the standards in the EU. It will also have an upgraded chipset supporting Apple Intelligence. It will have an OLED display with Face ID or possibly a notch, but we're not really sure. But either way, it should have an upgraded display. However, that's not much of an issue for those sensitive to PWM, as the phones with the OLED displays so far have been pretty good. However, the non-Pro models may bother your eyes a little bit more, so we'll have to wait and see. It's said to also have an upgraded 48-megapixel single camera instead of 2 cameras, and also it will house Apple's first Wi-Fi and Bluetooth modems. This is the biggest news, so we can see what that's like, and that's said to be rolling out to more products later this year. So their own Wi-Fi modem could help with overall connectivity, with power consumption and more, so I can't wait to see what that's all about. Now, we're also expecting some new iPads this year. The iPad 11 is expected this spring, along with the updates to iPad Air. This is to go along with the iPhone SE 4th generation. It shouldn't really be much more than just a spec bump for those upgrades, but it should launch with iOS 18.3 and iPadOS 18.3 apparently, so maybe we'll see them at the end of January or early February. Apple TV is also set to launch in 2025 with a less expensive model apparently, and that's according to Ming-Chi Kuo, so we could have a more affordable Apple TV box, around $99 possibly. That makes a lot of sense. I would also like to see a higher end version that's better at playing video games. Now, we already had the launch of the M4 Max this year in 2024 with the new Mac Mini, iMac, and MacBook Pros, but MacBook Air is yet to receive the latest chipset. While we are expecting other products such as the iPhone SE 4 that I mentioned before, as well as the iPad 11 and new iPad Air generation, we may get a new MacBook Air first, according to Mark Gurman this week. He said Apple would announce the M4 MacBook Air before the iPhone SE 4th generation. We expect the iPhone SE 4 in spring, so maybe we'll see the MacBook Air M4 much earlier than expected, maybe even in January. So they're great either way. This is an M2 MacBook Air 15-inch. It works fine. They have an M3 now. An M4 would just be even better, so hopefully we'll see that very soon. Apple has already placed the orders for the M5 chipsets expected next, even though all Macs have not yet been upgraded to the M4 processor. We could see M5 as soon as October 2025 and have yearly upgrades as needed. Also, the server-grade chips for M5 may actually split the CPU and GPU this time around, according to Ming-Chi Kuo. It could allow for more specific workflows on the chipset as well. Apple is said to be working on a new HomePod Mini this year as well, where we could see HomePod Mini 2 with its own Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chipset, similar to what we have in the iPhone SE 4. It would also include Apple Intelligence. I wouldn't expect much of a design change, but we could see some different materials as well. Apple is also said to be launching a new home device or smart home device that we've talked about before that is now being referred to by 9to5Mac as the HomePad. The HomePad could basically display photos, maybe be similar to what we have with a HomePod and an iPhone, and then also manage things in your home, such as different devices with the Home app, of course, and maybe some changes there. Also, we could see Siri integration with Apple Intelligence as well, maybe FaceTime as far as a camera and more. But at this point, we don't know much more about it. It is said to be less expensive than we would expect and could manage your smart home devices. Apple is working on a doorbell apparently and some other smart home devices, so we could see a whole different change this year with a whole new lineup of products. And so it seems Apple's got a lot of plans for it, but we're seeing very slow rollouts so far of the HomePod, and maybe the HomePad will pick that up a bit. So that's everything this week from iOS 19, maybe having a stability update. Let me know if you'd still prefer stability or features, or maybe a combination of a couple features and stability. Also, I'm looking forward to see what the HomePad is all about, if that's what it's called, and I'm also looking forward to some upgraded Macs with maybe an M4 Ultra this year, but that's expected later on. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.